Welcome to Good Morning Football, presented by Old Trapper.
Yeah, that's right. How's everybody doing this morning? I hope great. I hope you're at home with your family, recovering from your celebratory New Year's Eve. 2026 is upon us, everybody, not just for life, but also for the postseason. And that's really what we're here for, isn't it? We still have to get through week 18, which means when you look at the matchups this weekend, Manti, Mike G, and Kyle, you oftentimes reminisce perhaps about the last time the two teams played because you just need answers about how this thing is going to go. Kyle, would you be so kind and take us to the NFC North and week 2 and some business that went down?
Let's do that. Back to September, because both these teams had weird week ones, and then we have Ben Johnson going back to Detroit. He was there from 2020.
Bears felt so disconcerting. We're like, oh, no, what is going to happen here? Are the Lions great? What's up with the Bears? Now we have that picture a little clearer. What's also comforting is that Ben Johnson still looks like a stone-cold killer on the sideline. It's incredible with the arms crossed. And Dan Campbell's still the same as well. We're going to hear from both of these head coaches. Campbell about the 2025 that was, and Ben Johnson about what that game was really like to have 52 points dropped on his team.
It's never a good taste when you get beat like that, you know, so handedly. And yeah, well, I mean, it's early in the season, and you're still getting to know your team a little bit, and you know, you just being in that locker room after the game, you know, and how that felt. And you don't always remember exactly what was said or anything like that, but you always remember how you felt in those moments. And so I know our players do too.
And sometimes you got to hit rock bottom before you can work your way back up. And relative to where we were at, this is rock bottom, you know. But as bad as it looks, I said this the other day, it's not as far away as it may be up here. We just got to get a few things back in line here.
All right, here we go. Seahawks, again, have the #1 overall seed right now, but this is why Bears-Lions in Chicago matters this weekend. It's because the Bears will clinch a 2 seed with a win over the Lions or with an Eagles loss. They will have the 3 seed in the NFC if they lose to the Lions and Philadelphia wins. So the Eagles are heavily involved in this Bears-Lions conversation. Mike G, I'm going to start with you, though. We just did a little throwback, look back, and appreciation for what the beginning of the season was. Yesterday we looked at a week 1 highlight. Today it's week 2. Now we have a clearer picture of what these two teams are. When you consider Bears-Lions this weekend, what are your feelings surrounding week 2 to now for the NFC North rivals?
My feelings are New Year's Eve into New Year's Day is a time for a lot of folks to, you know, take the bigger picture, to have some perspective. And you look back and you think, boy, what did we think about both of these teams back in week 2 and all these passionate conversations that we had on this program and others. And then you go, oh, boy, that didn't work out the way that we thought it was going to work out. And you kind of say, you gotta take a step back. You got to look at the bigger picture. Well, that's what you have to do with the Lions right now. And there's a quote from Dan Campbell after losing the NFC Championship game 2 years ago that has been making the rounds really over the last couple of weeks. It's been everywhere. And everybody's been kind of looking at it and saying, oh, did Dan Campbell foretell the downfall of the Detroit Lions? Take a listen right here.
When you get in there with you know, a heavyweight like San Fran, man, that it is the difference. And sometimes you can only say so much. You got to live it, unfortunately. You got to get your heart ripped out, which we did. And it's a lesson learned. And look, I told those guys, this may have been our only shot.
Oh, stop. Hard cut. Leave it right there. First of all, they don't like being called San Fran. They hate that out there, Dan Campbell. San Francisco, you said the whole thing. But I am told that there was actually more to this quote and that you don't just cut it right. Take the rest.
This may have been our only shot. Do I think that? No. Do I believe that? No. However, I know how hard it is to get here. I'm well aware. And it's going to be twice as hard to get back to this point next year than it was this year.
Oh, boy, he was right about that. But you also heard the bite that we ran before that about sometimes you got to hit rock bottom to get back up. This Lions team has committed almost $1 billion in contract extensions to their core players, and they're going to have more coming. They got to pay Jahmyr Gibbs a ton of money at some point in the near future. This Lions team is not dead. This Lions team is not down. They just need to figure out what they need to do from a coaching staff perspective. Ben Johnson, that loss, we talked about it coming in, was going to be huge. It wound up being huge. I am not foretelling the downfall of the Detroit Lions. This is not the end of their window. It shall be reopened again, perhaps as soon as 2026.
What a great clip that was, Mike G. And I think in Dan Campbell's little clip, he said it's like getting your heart torn out. This was probably like the second time that happened, though, because a lot of conversations have been had about him losing both of his coordinators, but not a lot of it has been. Not a lot of people talked about what else he lost with those coordinators. If you think about Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, obviously they go on to have these head coaching jobs, but he also lost his passing game coordinator, Dan Campbell did, his wide receivers coach, his tight ends coach, his D-line coach. And so that's basically the entire passing attack that we've been used to seeing from the Detroit Lions, now gone. They bring in David Shaw. They bring in John Morton. They came from another team. Tyler Rule, he came from Iowa State, I believe it was. So you got a whole bunch of guys that have come from different teams, different outfits, and it's a whole new thing in 2025. So he's not just trying to tread water with a new OC and a new DC. He's trying to tread water in a whole new identity, and he's trying to teach not only the players, hey, this is the expectation, but also the coaches. And I think one could argue that maybe the players get the expectation better than some of the coaches, hence why Dan Campbell grabbed the playing call duties from John Morton late in the season. So to your point, Mike G, the Detroit Lions, they're not dead. They're not down. It is going to take some time for him to take this plant that's just been uprooted and put it somewhere else and have that thing start growing fruit again. So, shout out to Dan Campbell for what he's been able to do in 2025, because I know not a lot of people can lose all of those guys, coordinators and assistant coaches included, and be able to have a successful year the next year, Kyle B.
Ben Johnson's incredible. That's the takeaway that I see from this. There are other people. There are other factors. Ben Johnson may be a guy who is setting himself up to be one of the best coaches in the NFL moving forward. Williams this much, or Jared Goff pretending he was falling down. He won in Detroit because he would slam Montgomery and Gibbs into the line 50 times. They were incredible. Does it look a little bit familiar with what you've seen with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai? Yes. That's what he did. The first thing they did after Ben Johnson got the job was get a guard. Joe Tooney was the fancy weapon that Ben Johnson went out and got, and that's why they're third in the league in rushing. So, yeah, it really, really hurt Detroit. Dan Campbell, I think, is a really good coach. I think Ben Johnson may be like the next McVay. That's going to kill you when you get rid of him. That's going to help you when you add him. And I love that you brought back that quote, Mike, because I think a lot of people remember it. I think a lot of people misconstrue it about Dan Campbell. This might be our best shot, man. But I think it's really wise. We see this all the time, and it's fun to look through the lens of this year's playoffs. Get one while you can. If you can ever cash it in. I don't care if you have a second-year quarterback. I don't care if you have Caleb or Bo or Drake. Like, cash it in now. You may not get back. I will vividly remember Aaron Rodgers was standing on the Super Bowl podium holding a championship wrestling belt, and the whole take was, oh, he's going to get a bunch of these. Oh, yeah, this is just the first one. He's never even been back. He never once got back. Joe Burrow loses a Super Bowl. Well, he'll get his eventually. Will he? It's not that. It's not like that. Detroit did blow an opportunity that year, and one of the teams you're going to see is going to blow an opportunity this year, and you're going to say, well, his quarterback is so young, they'll be back. No, they won't. It's not the way it works. It's a tough league. Get it while you can.
Well, KB, you just hit it on the head right there. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has said the same thing with the success that they've had in Kansas City about how hard it is to get to the playoffs. I remember my rookie year in San Diego, Phillip Rivers and Eric Weddle, they kept preaching and harping with our opportunity to make it to the playoffs. And when we actually did, they kept telling me hey, don't get spoiled. Don't settle on this fact that it's easy for us to get here, because it's not. We didn't even come close the next 3 years. And when I went to New Orleans, we made it, but you start to really appreciate just the opportunities to be in the playoffs, let alone win a Super Bowl. It's just so crazy. And you brought me back to that place when I first started in the league about those rookies who make it to the Super Bowl and they win the Super Bowl. They don't understand how hard that is until you have success, some years where you don't make it. So what a great pull on that one, KB.
And as I look to this game now, and we talk about the Lions getting back to the postseason and getting back to doing things that we expect them to do consistently, is this game as important as the 2021 game against the Packers, where they had a chance to play spoiler, and they did in Lambeau, and they talked about all the things they were going to do the next year, and it was part of the come up here? Like, is there that much of a difference between 8-9 and 9-8 for the Lions right now? Is there that much of a difference between finishing strong here, beating your division rival in their building? Can it have the same kind of impact? I think it can. I honestly do. And I think that that's an announcement from Dan Campbell to his locker room, to the rest of the league, to everybody in the organization, that no, we're not dead, and this is just a lull here that we're going to recover from. I don't want to overstate the importance of a game that is not going to have an impact on the postseason, at least not from the Lions' perspective, but I think going out playing well and winning this game could be big for Detroit.
It's a great point. Those were great representative clips of both of those coaches. Really quick, Kyle, if you can do me a favor in 30 seconds, I want to pick your brain on, Mike G brought it up, the fact that Dan Campbell referenced San Francisco as San Fran and how annoying that is. Are you still at a 10 on the annoying scale of the fact that people are referencing Caleb Williams as 270 yards away becoming Chicago Bears' first 4,000-yard passer?
Can you imagine focusing on that with what the Bears have going on? Can you imagine that? The Bears are marching to the playoffs. The Bears are so good right now that they just lost the game, and Bears fans were like, it's okay. That was a good game. Like, plain bleep, if Caleb Williams has 4,000 yards or 8,000 yards, Caleb Williams trying to win a Super Bowl this year. Stop.
That's the NFC side of things. We got to bring in Ian Rappaport now for a look at what's happening on the AFC, especially